For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On the morning of September 12, 1995, 28-year-old Kyle Williams ventured into the remote backcountry of Glacier National Park, Montana. The acclaimed wildlife photographer from Denver was on assignment for National Geographic, documenting the park's endangered grizzly bears. He never returned. Despite an extensive search operation that discovered his scattered camera equipment along a secluded trail, Kyle seemed to vanish into the wilderness. Rangers initially suspected a tragic bear encounter, but no remains were found. For 21 years, his family lived with the haunting possibility that Kyle had fallen victim to the very creatures he dedicated his life to photographing. Then, in the summer of 2016, the retreating glaciers of the park revealed a discovery that would shatter every assumption about Kyle's disappearance. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Kyle Williams and the dark secrets that lay frozen in time beneath Montana's pristine wilderness. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. On a crisp September morning in 1995, Kyle Williams stepped onto the remote Highline Trail in Glacier National Park, his camera equipment carefully packed and his spirit full of anticipation. The 28-year-old wildlife photographer from Denver had earned his dream assignment, documenting the park's endangered grizzly bears for National Geographic. The morning mist still clung to the mountaintops as he made his final satellite phone call to his editor, confirming his planned route through the park's restricted areas. What no one knew then was that this would be the last time anyone would hear Kyle Williams' voice. The morning had started routinely enough. Park records show Kyle signed in at the Logan Pass Visitor Center at 6:45 a.m., presenting his special photography permits and discussing his intended path with the morning staff. He was well prepared, carrying high-end camera equipment, emergency supplies, and bear spray, standard gear for an experienced wildlife photographer who had spent the last 5 years documenting North America's most dangerous predators. By midday, other hikers reported seeing Kyle photographing mountain goats near Granite Park Chalet. He appeared excited, showing a German tourist couple some of his morning shots. They would later describe him as professional, focused, and completely in his element. These tourists were the last people to see Kyle Williams alive. The first sign of trouble came at dusk when Kyle failed to check in with park rangers, a mandatory requirement for photographers working in restricted areas. Initial concern turned to alarm when he missed his scheduled satellite call with his editor at National Geographic. By nightfall, park rangers had initiated standard search protocols, beginning with the areas where Kyle had indicated he would be photographing. What they discovered the next morning sent shockwaves through the Park Service. Along the Highline Trail, about 4 miles north of Granite Park Chalet, rangers found Kyle's professional camera equipment scattered across 50 yards of rocky terrain. His primary camera, a Nikon F4, lay shattered against a boulder. 2 expensive lenses were found several yards apart, and his backpack had been torn open, its contents strewn across the path. The scene initially painted a clear picture: a bear attack. Rangers found paw prints in the soft earth nearby, and the scattered equipment matched the typical pattern of a large predator encounter. Yet something wasn't quite right. Despite an extensive search, they couldn't locate any blood evidence or clothing fragments typically present in bear attacks. Over the next 72 hours, more than 100 Park Service personnel, volunteer searchers, and local law enforcement combed the surrounding wilderness. Helicopter surveys swept the valleys while ground teams methodically gridded the rocky slopes. Search dogs tracked Kyle's scent to a point near where his equipment was found, but the trail went cold there. As days turned into weeks, the search for Kyle Williams became one of the largest operations in Glacier National Park's history. The National Park Service brought in wildlife experts who analyzed the scene, trying to reconstruct what might have happened to the experienced photographer. The working theory remained focused on a B.R. encounter, though nagging inconsistencies troubled investigators. Park Ranger Thomas Green, who led several of the search teams, told reporters at the time, "In my 20 years of service, I've never seen a bear attack scene quite like this. Something about it just doesn't add up." Green's assessment would prove darkly ironic in the years to come, though no one could have guessed why at the time. As autumn turned to winter, heavy snowfall forced the suspension of ground searches. Kyle's family maintained a constant presence at the park, holding onto hope even as the likelihood of finding him alive diminished with each passing day. His mother, Sarah Williams, made regular appearances on national news programs, pleading for anyone with information to come forward. By the time the snow began to melt in spring 1996, the case of Kyle Williams had already begun its long journey into the cold case files of the National Park Service. His disappearance would remain one of the park's most puzzling mysteries for the next 2 decades, until a retreating glacier finally revealed the terrible truth about what happened on that September day in 1995. The initial investigation into Kyle Williams' disappearance revealed complexities that would haunt investigators for decades. In the crisp dawn following the discovery of his scattered equipment, Senior Ranger Patricia Martinez assembled her team at Logan Pass Command Center, establishing what would become the investigation's base of operations for the next 3 months. The scattered equipment scene demanded meticulous documentation. Each item's location was photographed, mapped, and cataloged, creating a debris field pattern that stretched across 50 yards of rocky terrain. The Nikon F4's damage pattern particularly troubled Martinez. While bear attacks typically left distinctive tooth marks and crushing damage, the camera's damage appeared more consistent with impact against rocks, as if it had been thrown. Thomas Green, leading the ground team, focused on analyzing tracks in the surrounding area. The paw prints initially discovered near the scene measured 11 inches across, suggesting a large male grizzly. However, wildlife specialist Dr. James Cooper noted peculiarities in the track patterns. Bears typically leave clear entry and exit trails when they encounter humans, he noted in his initial report. Here, the tracks simply appeared and disappeared, with no logical movement pattern. Interviews with hikers who had been on the Highline Trail that day painted a picture of normal activity until late afternoon. Margaret and Hans Weber, the German tourists who had spoken with Kyle, described his demeanor as completely professional and at ease. They remembered him mentioning plans to photograph in a meadow area just beyond the restricted zone boundary, information that helped narrow the initial search parameters. Weather conditions complicated the investigation from the start. September in Glacier National Park brought rapidly changing conditions, with afternoon thunderstorms regularly obscuring visibility and washing away potential evidence. Search teams battled against time and elements, knowing that each passing storm could erase crucial clues. The discovery of Kyle's torn backpack prompted another round of intense scrutiny. While the damage initially suggested animal involvement, closer examination revealed inconsistencies. The tears didn't match typical bear claw patterns, and items that would normally attract bears, energy bars and trail mix, remained untouched inside the scattered contents. Detective Michael Foster from Flathead County Sheriff's Office joined the investigation on day 4, bringing additional resources and expertise. Foster's experience with backcountry incidents proved valuable as he coordinated with Park Service forensics teams. His initial assessment noted the unusual absence of blood evidence or clothing fragments, typical markers of animal attacks. Park Ranger Thomas Green's role in the investigation grew as the days progressed. His extensive knowledge of the park's restricted areas made him an invaluable resource, though his insistence on leading searches in particular areas would later take on a darker significance. At the time, His suggestions to focus on certain regions seemed logical, given his 20 years of experience in the park. The investigation expanded to include analysis of Kyle's satellite phone records and his laws. Known communications. His final call to his editor at National Geographic revealed no indication of concern or awareness of danger. The editor reported that Kyle had sounded excited about photographing what he described as unusual bear activity in the restricted zone. As September drew to a close, the investigation faced mounting challenges. The absence of a body complicated efforts to determine what had happened. While evidence at the scene suggested violence, the cause remained frustratingly unclear. Search dogs repeatedly lost Kyle's scent at the equipment site, as if he had simply vanished into thin air. The bear attack theory, while still officially primary, began showing significant holes. Dr. Cooper's analysis of historical bear attacks in the park highlighted numerous inconsistencies with Kyle's case. The scattered equipment pattern, the lack of biological evidence, and the peculiar track patterns all suggested something else might have occurred on that remote trail. By October, winter's approach forced a scaling back of ground operations, though the investigation continued. The case had become personal for many involved, its mysterious nature haunting the dreams of seasoned investigators. They all knew that somewhere in the gathered evidence lay the truth about Kyle Williams' fate, but its revelation would require 21 more years and the retreat of ancient ice to finally emerge. As winter settled over Glacier National Park, the search for Kyle Williams transformed from an active rescue operation into something far more somber. The pristine wilderness that had drawn the young photographer now seemed to mock the efforts of those seeking answers, each snowfall further obscuring whatever clues remained on the Highline Trail. Sarah Williams refused to leave Montana that first winter, taking up residence in a small rental cabin near West Glacier. Every morning, she would drive to the park's headquarters, clutching new flyers she had printed overnight, hoping to keep her son's face fresh in people's minds. The local community embraced her vigil, with residents regularly bringing hot meals and offering whatever comfort they could to a mother unwilling to give up hope. By spring 1996, the case had begun its slow descent into obscurity. The national media crews that had once crowded the park's press briefings dwindled to occasional local reporters. Search resources, once abundant, were gradually redirected to other emergencies. The extensive files documenting Kyle's disappearance were carefully archived, becoming just another set of boxes in the Park Service's cold case storage. Detective Michael Foster continued to review the case periodically, troubled by its inconsistencies. He would often return to the site where Kyle's equipment was found, walking the trail in different seasons, hoping the changing landscape might reveal something previously overlooked. Each visit left him with more questions than answers. The Williams family marked each passing year with a memorial service at Logan Pass, drawing a small but dedicated group of supporters. Kyle's father, Robert Williams, established a foundation in his son's name, offering scholarships to young wildlife photographers. The foundation's annual exhibition became a testament to Kyle's passion, showcasing images of the very creatures he had died trying to document. Park officials maintained the case file as active, but leads grew increasingly scarce. Occasional tips would surface, a hiker claiming to have found unusual debris, or someone reporting old camera equipment in a remote area, but each potential breakthrough led to another dead end. The original investigation team gradually dispersed, with several key members retiring or transferring to other parks. Thomas Green, who had led many of the initial searches, remained at his post in Glacier National Park. He continued to assist whenever new information emerged, though his demeanor toward the case notably shifted over the years. Colleagues would later recall his increasing reluctance to discuss Kyle's disappearance, attributing it to the frustration of an unsolved case that had haunted his career. The mystery of Kyle Williams became part of park lore, shared around campfires and discussed in hushed tones by seasonal rangers. Various theories emerged over the years, some suggesting he had staged his own disappearance, others proposing he had stumbled upon something he wasn't meant to see. The official stance remained focused on the bear attack theory, though doubts lingered among those familiar with the case details. 5 years after the disappearance, the National Park Service conducted a comprehensive review of all cold cases, including Kyle's. The review yielded no new insights, but it did preserve crucial evidence that would prove vital decades later. Photos of the scattered equipment, soil samples, and detailed maps were carefully digitized, ensuring that time wouldn't completely erase the incident's physical record. Sarah Williams eventually returned to Denver, though she never stopped searching for answers. She maintained regular contact with park officials, calling on the anniversary of Kyle's disappearance each year. Her questions remained the same. Had anyone found anything new? Had the changing landscape revealed any clues? The answers were always negative, delivered with increasing gentleness by park staff who had come to know her well. As the years passed, the case of Kyle Williams served as a somber reminder of the park's unpredictable nature. New safety protocols were implemented for photographers working in restricted areas, and the permit system was enhanced to ensure better tracking of solo visitors. Yet the fundamental question remained unanswered. What really happened to the talented young photographer on that September morning in 1995? The case might have remained forever unsolved, relegated to the dusty archives of Park Service history, if not for the steady retreat of ancient ice that had silently held its secrets for 2 decades. Nature, it seemed, had finally decided it was time for the truth to emerge from its frozen vault. In July 2016, climate change delivered what 2 decades of searching could not. The Salamander Glacier, retreating at an unprecedented rate, revealed its long-held secret. 2 geology graduate students, mapping the glacier's recession, discovered human remains partially embedded in the ancient ice, along with the weathered remnants of a camera's memory cards. The discovery sent shockwaves through the Park Service. Within hours, a specialized recovery team arrived at the remote site, where they worked meticulously to document and extract every piece of evidence the glacier had preserved. The remains lay nearly 3 miles from where Kyle's equipment had been found 21 years earlier, in an area that had been under thick ice in 1995. Forensic anthropologist Dr. Elena Martinez led the recovery effort, carefully separating bone from ice, noting the peculiar preservation of certain materials. The cold had acted like a time capsule, protecting crucial evidence that would have otherwise been lost to decomposition. Most significantly, the memory cards from Kyle's backup camera, though damaged, remained potentially salvageable. The FBI's Digital Evidence Laboratory in Quantico received the memory cards within 24 hours of their discovery. Technicians worked around the clock, using advanced recovery techniques to access data that had been frozen for 2 decades. What they found transformed the case from a suspected bear attack into something far more sinister. The recovered photos told a story that had been hidden beneath the ice. The final images on the cards showed not just the majestic grizzlies Kyle had been assigned to photograph, but documented something far more disturbing. In chronological sequence, the photos revealed organized hunting parties in restricted areas, complete with high-powered rifles and recently killed bears. The last series of images, taken in rapid succession, captured men in Park Service uniforms participating in the illegal hunts. Most damning were the clear shots of Thomas Green, the very ranger who had led many of the searches for Kyle, guiding wealthy clients to their illegal quarry. The timestamp on the final photo was 2:17 p.m. on the day Kyle disappeared. 40 minutes later, his satellite phone went dead. The medical examiner's report delivered the final blow to the bear attack theory. Kyle's remains showed clear evidence of a single gunshot wound to the base of the skull, execution style. The bullet, preserved by the ice, matched the type commonly used by Park Service personnel in the 1990s. Inspector Lisa Chen from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service took charge of the new investigation. The evidence painted a clear picture. Kyle Williams had stumbled upon an illegal hunting operation and paid for it with his life. His camera, rather than capturing the beauty of protected wildlife, had documented his own murder. Sarah Williams received the news of her son's discovery with the same quiet dignity that had marked her 21-year wait. When shown the recovered photos, she touched the screen gently, noting how her son's final acts had been in service of the wildlife he so loved. Even at the end, she said, he was still trying to protect them. The glacier's revelation brought not only answers, but also justice. The recovered photos provided irrefutable evidence of a poaching operation that had continued long after Kyle's death. Each image told part of a story that had remained hidden for 2 decades, preserved by ice and time, waiting for the warming climate to expose both a murder and an environmental crime that had decimated the park's protected grizzly population. The discovery sparked the largest wildlife crime investigation in the park's history, as investigators began to understand that Kyle's murder was merely the tip of a very dark iceberg. The memory cards had preserved not just the circumstances of one photographer's death, but evidence of a systematic slaughter of protected species that had continued undetected for more than 20 years. The discovery of Kyle Williams' remains and memory cards in 2016 launched one of the most complex wildlife crime investigations in National Park Service history. Inspector Lisa Chen arrived at Glacier National Park within hours of the initial evidence recovery, immediately recognizing that this case would require a delicate balance of forensic science, wildlife expertise, and old-fashioned detective work. Chen's first action was assembling a specialized task force that brought together diverse expertise. Detective Michael Foster, who had never quite let go of the case, emerged from semi-retirement to join the investigation. His institutional knowledge proved invaluable as the team began connecting past and present evidence. The memory cards became the investigation's centerpiece. FBI technicians worked meticulously to recover data from the frozen devices, using cutting-edge technology to reconstruct damaged files. Each recovered image added another piece to the puzzle, revealing a sophisticated poaching operation that had operated under the Park Service's nose for decades. Wildlife crime specialist Patricia Rodriguez spent weeks analyzing the recovered photos, documenting each illegal kill. Her expertise helped establish a pattern of systematic hunting that targeted the largest, most impressive grizzlies in the park. The photos showed the same faces appearing repeatedly over several days, suggesting organized hunting parties rather than opportunistic poaching. The financial investigation proved equally revealing. Chen's team traced wire transfers from wealthy clients to offshore accounts, then back through a complex web of shell companies. The amounts were staggering. Some clients had paid upwards of $50,000 for the chance to kill a protected grizzly bear. As investigators dug deeper, they discovered that the hunting operation had established a precise methodology. Clients would arrive under the guise of wildlife photography tour, their high-powered rifles disguised as camera equipment. Park Ranger Thomas Green had used his position to guide these parties through restricted areas, using his intimate knowledge of bear movements to guarantee successful hunts. The investigation took a darker turn when forensic analysis of Kyle's recovered remains revealed the truth about his final moments. The evidence suggested he had been forced to kneel before being shot, an execution rather than a heat-of-the-moment killing. This discovery transformed the case from wildlife crime to first-degree murder. Chen's team worked methodically to build their case, knowing they would have only one chance to bring the perpetrators to justice. They conducted surveillance on Green, documenting his continued involvement in illegal hunting activities. His behavior suggested he had never suspected that Kyle's body, and the damning evidence it contained, would emerge from the ice. The breakthrough came when Rodriguez identified specific bears in Kyle's photos, animals whose disappearances had been documented but never explained. By cross-referencing these images with Park Service records, the team established a clear pattern of deception. Reports filed by Green had systematic. Cawley attributed missing bears to natural causes or territorial conflicts. Foster's interviews with former park employees revealed a culture of silence. Several had harbored suspicions about Green's activities but feared speaking out. The investigation uncovered instances of threatened retaliation against those who questioned the unusual number of bear deaths in Green's patrol areas. As summer turned to fall in 2016, the investigation expanded to include federal prosecutors who specialized in wildlife crime. The evidence mounted. Financial records, witness statements, recovered photos, and forensic analysis all pointed to a single conclusion. Thomas Green had not only murdered Kyle Williams, but had also orchestrated the systematic slaughter of protected wildlife for profit over 2 decades. The task force's final report detailed the full scope of the operation. More than 50 grizzly bears had been illegally killed, their deaths covered up through falsified reports and strategic misdirection. The operation had earned millions, all while decimating the very population the Park Service was meant to protect. Chen's methodical approach ensured that, when the time came to make arrests, the case would be ironclad. Every piece of evidence was scrutinized, every witness statement corroborated, and every financial transaction documented. The investigation had uncovered not just a murder, but one of the most extensive wildlife trafficking operations ever discovered within the national park system. On a cold October morning in 2016, Thomas Green arrived at Glacier National Park's headquarters for what he thought would be a routine staff meeting. At 59, the veteran ranger had grown comfortable in his position, believing the secrets of his past were safely buried in time. He had no way of knowing that Inspector Lisa Chen and her task force had spent the last 3 months building an airtight case against him. The evidence recovered from the glacier had opened a floodgate of revelations. Chen's team had meticulously traced 2 decades of financial transactions, revealing a pattern of deposits that coincided perfectly with wealthy visitors to the park. Each deposit ranged from $30,000 to $50,000, rooted through a maze of offshore accounts that all led back to Green. The breakthrough came when forensic accountants discovered a recurring pattern. Every major deposit was followed by the mysterious disappearance of a grizzly bear from Green's patrol area. Over 21 years, these transactions totaled more than $3 million blood money earned from the systematic slaughter of protected wildlife. Kyle Williams' recovered photos provided the final, damning piece of evidence. The images showed Green leading hunting parties into restricted areas, his uniform clearly visible as he guided wealthy clients to their illegal quarry. The timestamp on the last photo, taken just 40 minutes before Kyle's death, placed Green at the exact location where the young photographer's remains would later be found. Detective Michael Foster had spent weeks interviewing former park employees, uncovering a web of intimidation and silence. Junior rangers who had questioned the unusual number of bear deaths in Green's territory found themselves transferred to remote postings or faced with manufactured disciplinary actions. The fear of retaliation had kept many quiet, even as their suspicions grew. Wildlife specialist Patricia Rodriguez's analysis of the recovered photos revealed the calculated nature of the operation. Green had targeted the largest, most impressive bears, knowing they would command premium prices from trophy hunters. Her report documented 53 distinct kills, each one methodically planned and executed under the cover of official park business. The surveillance operation mounted by Chen's team exposed Green's ongoing activities. Even after Kyle's remains were discovered, he continued arranging hunting expeditions, growing bolder with each successful kill. Hidden cameras captured him meeting with clients in remote areas, accepting cash payments, and guiding them to protected wildlife. The investigation revealed a sophisticated network of spotters and facilitators. Green had recruited seasonal workers to track bear movements, using the park's own radio systems to coordinate hunts. He manipulated patrol schedules to ensure restricted areas would be clear of legitimate park personnel. During hunting expeditions, as evidence mounted, Chen's team documented how Green had used his position to cover up the killings. Official reports were falsified, attributing bear deaths to natural causes or territorial conflicts. He had even staged fake crime scenes, scattering evidence to suggest poachers had struck while he was off duty. The financial investigation uncovered a network of wealthy clients spanning 3 continents. Business executives, foreign dignitaries, and trophy hunters had all paid premium prices for the chance to kill protected grizzlies. Green's client list read like a who's who of international big-game hunters, each one implicated in the illegal operation. When confronted with the evidence, Green's carefully constructed world began to crumble. The recovered photos left no room for denial, each image a testament to his betrayal of the very wildlife he had sworn to protect. The bullet that killed Kyle Williams matched Green's service weapon, providing the final link between the murder and the poaching operation. In the face of overwhelming evidence, Green broke. His confession revealed the full scope of his crimes, not just the murder of Kyle Williams, but decades of orchestrating illegal hunts, accepting bribes, and systematically destroying the park's grizzly population for profit. The man who had once been considered a dedicated protector of wildlife stood revealed as its greatest threat. The case would become a watershed moment in wildlife crime enforcement, demonstrating how modern forensic techniques and patient investigation could unravel even decades-old crimes. Green's confession opened the door to prosecuting dozens of wealthy clients who had participated in the illegal hunts, leading to a broader international investigation into wildlife trafficking networks. In December 2016, Thomas Green stood before a federal judge in Montana's district court, his ranger's uniform replaced by prison orange. His shoulders slumped under the weight of his crimes. The man who had once commanded respect throughout Glacier National Park now faced the consequences of a betrayal that had spanned more than 2 decades. The courtroom fell silent as Green delivered his final statement, his voice barely audible as he detailed how a single moment of opportunity in 1995 had spiraled into years of systematic wildlife slaughter. He described the day Kyle Williams stumbled upon one of his illegal hunting parties, and how the young photographer's dedication to wildlife documentation had sealed his fate. Green's confession revealed the calculated nature of the murder. He had tracked Kyle through the park, watching as the photographer documented the illegal hunting operation. When Kyle attempted to leave the restricted area with his evidence, Green intercepted him. The ranger described leading Kyle to a remote location, forcing him to kneel, and firing a single shot before disposing of the body in a glacial crevasse. The judge's sentence reflected the magnitude of Green's crimes: 30 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. Beyond the murder charge, he faced multiple counts of wildlife trafficking, conspiracy, and abuse of office. The financial penalties totaled more than $5 million, including restitution to the Park Service and the Williams family. Sarah Williams attended the sentencing, carrying with her a framed photo Kyle had taken of a mother grizzly and her cubs just days before his death. When given the opportunity to address the court, she spoke not of vengeance but of loss, not just of her son, but of the magnificent creatures he had died trying to protect. The photo, she announced, would be donated to the park's visitor center, ensuring Kyle's love for wildlife would continue to inspire others. The investigation's ripple effects extended far beyond Green's conviction. 28 wealthy clients faced federal charges for participating in illegal hunts. International arrest warrants were issued for foreign nationals who had paid to kill protected bears. The case sparked a comprehensive review of wildlife protection protocols across the national park system. Glacier National Park implemented sweeping reforms in response to the case. New oversight measures included mandatory partner patrols in restricted areas and enhanced tracking of wildlife populations. The park established the Kyle Williams Memorial Fund, dedicated to supporting wildlife photography, projects that advance conservation efforts. The recovery of Kyle's memory cards provided more than evidence of crimes. They offered a final testament to his skill and dedication. The photos he took in his last days, excluding those documenting illegal activities, were published in a special edition of National Geographic. The images captured the power and beauty of the grizzlies he had died trying to save, earning him a posthumous award for wildlife photography. Inspector Lisa Chen's investigation became a model for wildlife crime task forces nationwide. Her methodical approach to combining traditional detective work with modern forensic techniques established new standards for investigating environmental crimes. The case study is now required reading at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. Patricia Rodriguez used data from the investigation to publish groundbreaking research on the impact of organized poaching on protected species populations. Her findings revealed that Green's operation had reduced Glacier's grizzly population by nearly 30%, information that led to enhanced recovery efforts and stricter penalties for wildlife crimes. The glacier that had preserved Kyle's remains continued its steady retreat, a silent witness to changing times. Park scientists noted a tragic irony. The same climate change that revealed the truth about Kyle's murder now threatens the very habitat of the creatures he died trying to protect. 22 years after Kyle Williams set out on his final photography assignment, justice had finally been served. His death, while tragic, sparked changes that would protect future generations of wildlife and those who dedicate their lives to documenting them. In Glacier National Park, the grizzly population slowly began to recover, each new cub a testament to the enduring impact of one photographer's final act of courage.